What's up, guys? Welcome to the 330 Sports Show. I'm Justin Coffin. I'm going to go ahead and introduce our guest here right off the bat. So he is the creator of the T-Shoe Index. He is a betting analyst for VSiN. He has also been a contributor for Cleveland.com, SaturdayGlory.com. He will be a contributor this year for the Bill and Doug Show. Let's welcome in our guest, Tyler Shoemaker. Tyler, how you doing today?
Hey, good morning. Good to be here.
Well, I've wanted to get you on the show the last couple of years, and I appreciate you waking up early. We're recording this on a Friday morning, so I appreciate you doing this.
Yeah, of course. Glad we finally got to make it happen. We've been trying to coordinate schedules for a while, so I'm glad.
No doubt. Like when you and Doug Maurice get together, that's like one of my favorite podcasts to listen to. He's more like a vibes guy. You are a numbers guy, and I got to be honest, I've won some money tailing a lot of your bets. So I'm looking forward to my audience, hopefully maybe connecting with a new bookmaker here. So Tyler, why don't you tell the people watching, listening, who aren't familiar with kind of what you do, you making your own models, stuff like that. Like, I guess maybe if they're like a 10-year-old, how would you explain that to them, what you do?
Yeah, basically. So when I started this about 9 years ago, I basically just wanted to answer the question, like, how many points would Team A be expected to score and allow versus Team B? Because, you can't just look at raw stats because that's misleading. So learning how to opponent adjust the numbers, I think, is the most important part of what I do. Because you can look at, like I said, raw stats, points per game, things like that, but that doesn't really give you a great idea of how Team A would do against Team B. So I tried to just simplify it as much as I could with an opponent adjustment aspect to my numbers. So the TSI, I do it for pretty much all sports now, basketball, college basketball, men's and women's, WNBA, college football, NFL. So again, just trying to simplify down to how many points do we think this team would score and allow against this team based on what they've done against their schedule. And then beyond that, kind of what their schedule has done against their schedule. It's kind of an iterative process.
Okay, yeah. So there's a lot of data that's going into all that number. So how does that differ? So like right now, are you looking at last year's data to incorporate, before games have started? And then I'm sure you adjust those numbers as the season moves on, or can you explain that?
Yeah, definitely. I think my model does best like once the season starts and I can accumulate the data and opponent adjust properly. I'll be honest, my preseason process has changed a lot over the last handful of years, with the way the sport has changed in college football with the transfer portal and things like that. I used to have like a really good proprietary like development rating for each school and would do it based on, how they've trended the last 3 years and things like that. But now these rosters turn over so much year to year. I do rely more heavily on the betting market, in terms of win totals and things like that to kind of help me stay on the right track in the preseason. And then once the season starts, I'll gradually phase those out and incorporate my own, game to game formula based on the on-field data that we get.
Okay. All right. Makes sense. It makes sense, at least on the surface level to me. I'm sure there's a lot more data and numbers that are more complicated for the casual person out there. But like what we're going to do today, this is going to be a little different show than I've ever frankly done. And I don't know if Tyler's ever done anything like this, but we're going to do a college football draft for the playoffs. So what we're going to do, Tyler and I are going to each draft 6 teams. So we're going to draft our favorite 6 teams each, or 12 teams total, 6 teams each. Once someone takes a team, they're off the board. And Tyler's basically going to tell me if that's a good pick or if it's trash in his opinion when I pick. But once somebody takes a pick, they're off the board. And, we'll get some analyst analysis as we go through it. And we'll go from there. So Tyler, what we're going to do with those 12 picks, you can take them from any conference. They could be group of 6, whatever, ACC, SEC, Big 10, or Big 12. After that, we're going to pick one group of 6 team each and one long shot. to make the playoffs. So we're in total going to pick, what would that be? 16 teams for a 12-team bracket. So that makes sense, Tyler?
Yep, all good. So just to clarify, are we picking based on who we think is best, or are we picking based on who's most likely to make the playoff, based on their schedule?
Probably who's most likely to make the playoff.
Gotcha. Okay.
You're probably going to have more data and numbers. I'm going to probably just go on feel here and my just generic thoughts on this. So that's what we'll do. So Tyler, I'll let you decide. You want to go first or second with this?
I'll go ahead and go first. I think there's a clear number one based on how good the team is and based on their schedule. So I'm going to take Notre Dame first. Yeah. I think they're my number one power rated team, but they also, their strength of schedule, which in my numbers is your average opponent power rating, is only a 2, which means they're on the average week, they're playing a team that's only 2 points above average. For comparison's sake, like Ohio State's is 8.4, Oregon's is 9.8. So a 2.0 average opponent power rating for Notre Dame's schedule. It's essentially a 1 or 2 game schedule, depending on what you think of BYU. But, that game against Miami is pretty much everything for them. Even if they lose it and go 11-1, they're still going to be in the playoff.
Love it. Yeah, that's where I was going with my pick too. But I think Notre Dame, Marcus Freeman, CJ Carr, that's a loaded team. And like you said, that schedule seems to be pretty easy. So I'm going to go with my first pick here at number 2. I'm going to go with the defending champs. I'm going to go with the Indiana Hoosiers. I think, again, same thing. I'm going more just on I trust Kurt Cignetti now until he proves me wrong. They brought in a new quarterback this year. Again, defending champs, their roster's probably still not to the level of a Notre Dame or an Ohio State or Oregon. But until they show me they're not going to make the playoff, I'm going to pick them here. So, and their schedule's a lot easier than some of the other teams, I think a little bit below them. So I'm going to go. So 2 teams from the state of Indiana with our top 2 picks here, Notre Dame, Indiana. What do you think about the Hoosiers?
Yeah, I think that's a great pick. And I'm looking, I think there's a consensus top 6 or 7 teams in the sport. Indiana's definitely in that group. And of that group, they have the second easiest schedule behind Notre Dame. So I think that goes right in line with what we were saying with Notre Dame. I think, Indiana's schedule is tougher. Their average opponent power rating is 6.8. But I do have them with 11, what I call likely wins, which is a win probability above 60%. So, I think that's a great pick. And like you said, Cignetti, until he shows us otherwise, I think he's going to be there and be a factor in the playoff. No
doubt. Is just for those 11 plus wins over 60%, is the Buckeye game the one they're not most likely?
I believe so. Let me double check that.
Oh, sorry. I know you got a lot of numbers, so we can.
Yeah. So the Ohio State game, I actually have Indiana because it's at Indiana. I have Indiana favored by a half point. I give the Hoosiers about a 52% chance to win that game right now.
Okay. All right. Very good. All right, Tyler, we'll go back to you with your next pick.
Yeah, those to me, just looking at the strength of schedule and projected wins, those are the clear top 2.
Okay.
I think with my third pick, I'm going to take Miami, or my second pick here. I'm going to take Miami. Their strength of schedule only a 4.2. Again, they have 11 likely wins, which of course the one loss, projected loss coming to Notre Dame. So the ACC is just not what the Big Ten and the SEC are. So I think Miami's got a clear path there. Mario Cristobal seems to be getting it together there. They obviously recruit extremely well. They beat Ohio State head to head last year. They obviously lost Ruben Bain off the defensive line, who was a game wrecker, especially in that game against Ohio State. But I do think they return enough that they should be a factor again here this year.
Okay. All right. Well, just based on your data with my number 4 pick, this would have been my third team, but I'm going to skip over them just based on something you already said. So I'm actually going to go with the Buckeyes here at number 4, in lieu of another Big Ten team, because of the opponent schedule that you said Oregon plays. So I'm going to go with the Buckeyes over the Ducks here. That was kind of who I was deciding upon. So what do you think about Ohio State? I know in Vegas they have them as a 9. It's heavily juiced to the over, but 9.5 win total. We don't usually see that out of the Buckeyes.
Yeah. I can't remember the last year they only won 9. Was it 2011?
I think it was.
Was the last time they won fewer than 10 games. So I think that's a good pick based on power rating alone. I've got them in Oregon basically even. I have Oregon a half point ahead. But as I mentioned, Ohio State's scheduled just a smidge behind Oregon's on average. Now, the thing that doesn't factor into the strength of schedule necessarily, but something that I think you have to take into consideration is Ohio State's got a 3-game stretch of at Indiana, at USC, Oregon at home. Now, there is a bye week in there between Indiana and USC, but man, that's as tough a 3-game stretch as anyone has in the country. I think if they can get through that stretch 2-1 or better, I think they're going to finish 10-2 at worst, depending on what you think they're going to do in the Texas game. And obviously with their schedule, I think even at 9-3, they would be in consideration for the playoff. But I think at 10-2, they're a lock to be in the playoff. And I just have a hard time seeing them lose 3 games. I mean, Ryan Day's just done such a good job with this program. Yes. So I think that's a great pick. And obviously, as someone who went to Ohio State, a fan, I hope for our sake that you're right.
and I am also an Ohio State alum as well. So our bias might show a little bit in some of these. Tyler, as a betting guy, let me just ask you this question real quick before we go on. Do you ever see a number and you're like, man, I don't want to do it, but like the Buckeyes are going to be underdogs here. You know what I mean? You have to go head over heart with some of these picks.
Yeah, I definitely, Doug and I talk about this a lot on our shows that we've done in the past. And I never bet against them because that just sets myself up for a miserable Saturday afternoon, regardless of what happens, because either Ohio State loses or I lose money. So I don't ever bet against them, but there definitely are times where like I see my numbers and I see what the betting market's doing. And I'm like, oh, I don't like this at all. I mean, for instance, the Texas playoff game, the national championship year in 2024, going into that game, my numbers in the betting market, I was just like, man, this feels like it's going to be very, very close. And it was, that was, I don't think I had any action in that game, if I recall, but yeah, there are definitely times where the betting aspect kind of tells me going into the game, like, oh, this is not going to be a fun watch as an Ohio State fan.
Yeah. I have some friends that use the term hedge your happiness and will bet against their favorite team from time to time, but I can't do it like you on that. So right now we got Notre Dame, Indiana, Miami, and Ohio State with the first 4 picks. Tyler, we're going to go to you with your next one.
Yeah, I think I'll take Oregon here. I'll take the other half of this. I mean, their first 3 games are weak. I've got them projected average win probability in those first 3 weeks is 96%. So they're going to start off 3-0 before they go to USC for their first real test of the season. I've got them as an 8-point favorite in that game. Really, they don't have another super tough game until Ohio State in November. I do have the Buckeyes favored by 1.5 in that game because it is in Columbus. And then they play Michigan back-to-back. So that Ohio State-Michigan back-to-back is going to be tricky for them. But at the end of the day, I can't see them going worse than 10-2. And 10-2 is going to get them in the playoffs. So I like the Ducks here.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I agree. That was the team I had initially third until you said their opponent adjusted was 9.8.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
So yeah, that's a tough schedule. Like at least with some of those teams late. All right. I'm going to go with the first SEC team here. I'm going to go with the Georgia Bulldogs, and you can tell me why that's a good pick or a bad pick.
Yeah, that I was looking when you said SEC, I was like, all right, is he going to go Texas or Georgia here? And Georgia's strength of schedule is slightly worse than Texas's, so I think that's a good pick. I've got them with 11 likely wins and 1 coin flip. So, basically I would set their over under at about 11.5 here. So I think there's a chance they go undefeated. Me looking in their schedule a little bit deeper here. Obviously open up a couple of cupcakes to start at Arkansas. Their first real test will be Oklahoma at home, but I've still got them as a 7.5 point favorite in that game. Vanderbilt's going to be way down this year. And then they go to Alabama. I've got them as a 3-point favorite in that game. I mean, their average spread against FBS opponents this year is 10.5. I've got them as an average 10.5 point favorite against FBS teams. So I think this is a great pick. I think they're as close to a lock as you can get at this point in the year.
Okay. All right, feeling good about that. I appreciate that. So, Tyler, we'll let you go ahead with your next pick, our 7th overall.
All right, I'm still not going to go into the SEC because I think there's a team that we've overlooked from another conference that I've got to snatch now before you get them, and that is Texas Tech. I've got them with 12 likely wins. So their strength of schedule is worse than Notre Dame's. It's a 0.1, so they're basically just playing an average. Think of them as playing like Maryland every week is basically what their schedule averages out to. So I think Texas Tech is definitely going to be there. I mean, I've got them as the 8th power rated team. So, I do think they're going to be a strong team, but also when you factor in the schedule, it's like really good team, pretty bad schedule. That's a recipe for a playoff berth.
Now, let me ask you this, because I did have Texas Tech written down, but I wrote a big question mark with them. I did have them in my top 12, but the whole Sorsby situation, I don't know anything about their backup quarterback, who will now be their starter. Did that factor into your numbers or change anything as you did this?
Yeah, I mean, I think we saw a slight decrease. But I mean, Sorsby, like, I know he got a huge payday to go there. And, that's fine if he's that valuable to them. But like from a point spread standpoint, he wasn't going to move the needle a whole lot for me. So I think there was a slight downgrade. I don't remember what it was off the top of my head, but
sure,
nothing huge. It didn't drop them from 3rd to 8th or anything like that. It was very minimal in terms of how I project their season to play out, because Texas Tech is a defense first team, really. So, whatever their offense can give them is going to be a cherry on top, but they're going to be led by their defense. And that defense is going to be stout again. So I like the Red Raiders.
All right, good. That's good info. And that sold me a little bit more on them, because I was not convinced, but you make a good case for them. All right, I'm going to stay in the same state. I'm going to go here with the Texas Longhorns, and I feel like the winner of that Ohio State Texas game is going to put themselves in a really good position right off the bat to make the playoffs. So I feel good having both Ohio State and Texas in my bracket here, because I think whoever wins that game, it's almost like, I don't want to say guarantee, but it's more likely than not that they're going to make it. So I'm going to go with the Longhorns here. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's a great pick. That's where I would have gone next. I've got Texas with 11 likely wins, coin flip game against Ohio State. So, I think 11.5 is a reasonable kind of over under for them. Now, the question mark with them is like, last year, like Sark wants to blame them playing Ohio State as to why they, didn't have a better season last year in terms of the playoff, but they lost to Florida, who won 4 games last year. So it's like,
right.
Can they avoid that type of loss this year with such expectations? I think the jury's still kind of out on Sark. I think this is a big year for him. So we'll see. I've got Texas power rated 5th. Again, their strength of schedule is tough. Average opponent power rating of 11.6. But even despite that, my numbers think they're going to be so good. They still got 11 likely wins despite that tough schedule. So I think that's a good pick.
Okay. All right. So we are 2/3 through our top 12 teams here. Tyler, I'm going to let you go ahead and pick number 9 overall, your 5th pick.
Yeah, now this is where it starts to get tough, and we're gonna have to start reaching a little bit, I think. I don't love to do this, but I'm gonna take LSU here. Average opponent power rating of 10.7. The thing that scares me here is they only have 8 likely wins, but they do have 3 coin flips. So there's only 1 likely loss in there. So 3 coin flips, 8 likely wins. I've got them power rated 10th. So to me, this is more just like, all right, I've got them power rated 10th. We'll see. I mean, it's going to take them winning probably 2 of those 3 coin flip games to get them in. But for lack of another option that I really believe in, I'm gonna take LSU here.
Okay. I like it. I like the LSU pick. I don't like their head coach. I'm not a big Lane Kiffin guy. But I don't know if that's an improvement or not over Brian Kelly. Probably is an improvement, even though I can't stand either one of them. But
Yeah, same.
but LSU is probably the smart pick there. Okay, I'm going to go with my next one. I put LSU on my do not draft just because out of spite reasons, which again is not smart from a betting perspective. I'm going to go with my 9th pick here for my 10th overall. I'm going to go with BYU. And for reasons you said earlier, the Notre Dame game is kind of like, obviously they're going to play Utah, but the Notre Dame game is a big one for them. And whether you think Notre Dame's going to beat them or not, like I still think 11-1 or a 10-2 BYU has a good shot at making the playoffs. What's your thoughts on the Cougars?
Yeah, BYU was going to be kind of my dark horse team that we get to later. Spoiler alert. So I think that's a reasonable pick. Strength of schedule is only 4.8. I've got them power rated 20th. I do have them with 10 likely wins, the one likely loss to Notre Dame, and then the coin flip against Utah at Utah. So, if they get that Utah game, I think there's going to be a really good case there. And then, if they get to the Big 12 championship, maybe they surprise Texas Tech and get there. But I think that's a solid pick, especially for lack of, a really clear option here. There's kind of just a cluster of 12 teams you could take at this point.
For sure. Okay. All right. Very good. So BYU there at 10. We have 2 more picks of our normal regular top 12 here. So Tyler, I'm going to let you go ahead with pick number 11.
All right. Now there's a team I've got power rated in the top 10 that we have not taken. So I'm going to snatch them up, and that is Texas A&M. Basically the exact same thing I said about LSU applies to Texas A&M. They're power rated. I've got them power rated right there next to each other. 8 likely wins, 3 coin flips. So again, I think this is a good team that's like, all right, if they get hot, they can probably do it. It's going to take them probably winning 2 of those 3 coin flip games. But I like Mike Elko as a coach. So I think this is a reasonable pick at this point.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Texas A&M. I like that pick. And, honestly, if they beat Texas at the end of the season, that was a really tight game, at least for a little while. They're probably they get a playoff bye, and who knows what they could have done instead of they played in that wind tunnel against Miami last year too in the playoff, which was crazy. All right, I'm going to make the last pick here. I'm going to go with the playoff team again from last year. I had this team as my number 10 team overall. I'm going to go with Ole Miss. Lane Kiffin's former team, but Trinidad Chambliss coming back, I think is huge for them, him getting that extra year. So I'm going to just go with Ole Miss on straight feel here. I don't really have a good reason. I'm just going with Ole Miss out of the SEC.
Yeah, I like that. I like the vibes around Ole Miss as well. I think Pete Golding kind of looks the part, acts the part. I think that's a team that is well coached, and they're not going to be intimidated by anyone. I think they're going to want to go kind of prove themselves, even though, like you said, they were in the playoff last year. The concern here is they've only got 7 likely wins on their schedule, 3 coin flips. So for them to get in, it's probably going to take them winning all 3 of those coin flip games, which again, with when Trinidad Chambliss is your quarterback and Pete Golding's your coach, you got a chance to win all 3 of those coin flip games. So, I think that's a solid pick, but I think they probably have a lower floor than the teams we've discussed so far, but I also think their ceiling is pretty high as well. So I think that's a good pick at this point.
Okay. All right. So let me go over these real quick. So Tyler went, and Tyler had the odd picks here. So Tyler went Notre Dame, Miami, Oregon, Texas Tech, LSU, and Texas A&M. I went Indiana, Ohio State, Georgia, Texas, BYU, and Ole Miss with our playoff top 12. Now, we didn't throw a group of 6 in there yet, so there will be one group of 6 team in the playoff to bump at least one of those teams out. So Tyler, who is your group of 6 team favorite to make this year's college football playoff?
Yeah, I think I assume we're counting the Pac-12 as a group of 6 at this point.
Yes, you can count the Pac-12 for sure.
Okay, all right, yeah, because this is not the Oregon USC Pac-12 of old. I think Boise State is probably at the top of that list. There's a a cluster of a few teams. I've got Boise State with 10 likely wins. They're power rated 52nd. So I mean, if they do get in, or whatever group of 6 team gets in, they're going to be a huge underdog, obviously. I've got them, like I said, 10 likely wins. You win that conference, like you're right there in the mix, and then it's just like how impressive were you winning those 10 games, basically. So
Sure.
we'll see. And the odd thing with the Pac-12 scheduling is they're doing that flex game, so that 10 could become 11 depending on what the schedule when the schedule gets finalized, what that ends up being. So 11-1 Boise State getting in, I wouldn't have a problem with it, and I think it's definitely possible. They've kind of got that brand reputation too, as kind of they've already made the playoff once, so I think that works in their favor as well. So I'm going to take Boise State here.
Yeah, I think a lot of people still even like reminisce from like 20 years ago and them beating Oklahoma in that Fiesta Bowl, and that was like one of the greatest games I think I've ever seen. But I think we still think way back when to the Statue of Liberty play and the hook and ladder and all that stuff. But Boise State's a feel-good team, but that's a solid pick. That was my number one group of 6 too. Just to be, for argument's sake, I'm going to go with my second one I put down just in case you didn't take him. I'm going to go with our old friend Brian Hartline down in the Tampa area, St. Pete area. I'm going to go with USF Bowls. What's your thoughts on Hartline and USF? What do your numbers say about them?
Yeah, that's a really good pick. So I've got them power rated 69th. So they're like kind of in the range of like Purdue, Rutgers from a power rating standpoint. So okay, like if we were going to say, okay, Purdue's going to make the playoffs, that would sound crazy. But you look at Purdue's strength of schedule is 11.2. South Florida's is minus 9.4. So they have a very, very favorable schedule. Again, I think as far as group of 6 teams go, their ceiling could be as high as anyone's. Their floor could be as low as anyone's. We don't know what Brian Hartline's going to do as a head coach. Obviously, he was great as a wide receivers coach and pretty good as an offensive coordinator. As it stands, I've got them with 8 likely wins, no likely losses, and 4 coin flips. So it's like, all right, if they win 3 of their 4 coin flip games, they're right there, and they're probably considered one of the best G6 teams. So I think they'll be a really interesting watch this year. And I think as Brian Hartline gets it going there in recruiting, I think they're going to become more of a powerhouse and a team to watch on a yearly basis.
And Tyler, just for my own sake, what is a coin flip game? Is that like a gimme putt in golf? If it's like 3 points or less, or how's that work?
So a coin flip game is a win probability between 41 and 59. So a likely loss is a 40% or less win probability. Likely win is 60 or above, and then that kind of middle ground is a coin flip. Okay.
All right. Very good. Good to know. All right. So Tyler's going with Boise State. I'm going with USF for our group of 6 teams. And yeah, I almost forgot about to even mention the Pac-12 this year. Our wild card / long shot teams, I think you kind of already mentioned yours, but go for it if you want to talk any more about BYU or any other teams.
Yeah, no, BYU is going to be my team. You took them, so I'll find another one here quickly. I mean, Tennessee, like, do they get it going? I know their fans think they're going to. From what I've seen
their fans think they're going 13-0 in a 12-game season.
Their schedule is kind of an average SEC schedule. It's kind of on par with the rest of them. Average opponent power rating of 10.6. I've got them projected with 7 likely wins and 3 coin flips. Okay. So if they get it together, win all their coin flip games and go 10-2, I think there's a case to be made that they could get in the playoffs. So I'll take them. They've recruited well. I mean, they've been throwing a lot of money at guys, so good for them for getting their war chest ready to go in recruiting. So we'll see if they can get it together. But I think they're kind of a high ceiling team. So I'll take a flyer on them.
Okay. I like it. All right, Tyler, I'm going to let you tell me which team to pick here because I have 2 long shots. I have the Washington Huskies and I have the Louisville Cardinals as my 2 possibilities for long shot, kind of like plus 400 or higher type teams.
Yep, I like both of those. Actually, Washington I've got them power rated right there next to Tennessee, so I was kind of eyeballing them as well. Let's see, Louisville. I mean, Louisville from a schedule standpoint, their average opponent power rating is only 5.5, whereas Washington's is 8.4.
All
So and their power rating is only 2 points different. So I think Louisville probably is the better value there. I've got them with
right.
9 likely wins and 2 coin flips. So, if they win definitely one of those two, but if they win both of those coin flips and they're 11-1, I mean, that's a playoff caliber resume, I guess depending on who their loss was to. If they have a really bad loss, that obviously would hurt it. But at this point, as far as taking a flyer on someone for a potential playoff team, I mean, I think Jeff Brom is a really good coach. So we'll see if the quarterback's gonna pop. I have high hopes. So I think Louisville is a good pick there.
Little maybe like Joe Burrow type situation with our old friend Lincoln Keenholz down there. We can root for him, like by proxy down there in Louisville. So wish him well, and that's who I'm going to go with. I do like Washington. I think I'm going to end up taking their over in the preseason, but I do like Washington. But Louisville, you sold me on them. All right, so Tyler. Let's talk about real quick, and I want you to pick, whatever you're comfortable sharing for a week 0, week 1. I have only made 3 bets preseason so far with the games that come out, and I'm outside of Youngstown here, so I already took. I don't know if you get into FCS at all, but I took Youngstown State plus 23.5 against the Kentucky Wildcats. I think I took Minnesota minus 45.5 against Eastern Illinois, and I took Idaho plus 36, some ridiculous number. So those are the only 3 bets I've made. But if you're able to, if you have like a favorite or I feel confident about a week 0, week 1 game, maybe you're looking at, if you have one to maybe share with us.
Sure. I'll give you a couple here because I'll be honest. I've been neck deep in WNBA, so I haven't. After I made these bets, I haven't tracked to see where the lines have gone. So some of these numbers might be stale. So I'm gonna give you a few, and hopefully some of these numbers are still good. I played Houston minus 18.5 in week 1. I would play that up to 20.5. Pittsburgh minus 16.5. I would play that to 17. And Clemson plus 11.5. I do think that has moved. I would play that at 10 or better. But those are three week 1 plays that I made. Hopefully you can get some decent numbers on those still. I made those bets about a month ago.
And if I'm not mistaken, you played some hoops with the Clemson head coach before, haven't you?
Yeah, we in my men's league here in Greenville, South Carolina, we play against Dabo and his sons pretty frequently. It's pretty fun.
Is he pretty good?
He's if you put him in like a 35 and up league, he would be like one of the better players for sure.
Interesting.
Our league actually is really competitive. It's a lot of like former college players, so it's really competitive. So it's tough for Dabo at his age to really excel there, but he can play for his age for sure.
That's cool. That's very good. So, Tyler, I appreciate you doing this. So Houston, Pitt, and Clemson, I'll put those numbers out again, maybe for some of our viewers to share. I'm going to jump on them because why not? You've made more money for me than I've lost. So that's a good thing. Tell people where they can follow you, how they can get subscribed to your service and stuff. I highly recommend it as a former and again a future subscriber to your work. So tell people how they can get in touch with you, where they can follow you, all that good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, the best way to interact with me is on X for sure, at TShoeIndex. And then, from there, you can go to my website, tshoeindex.com, which is where you can get subscribed and get my football guides, which you get all college football and NFL. You get projections on every single game ahead of time. So you can look today and look at what I have Ohio State, Michigan projected at, for instance. So you get the whole season's projections. They update every week. All my bets that I make, all of that. Each team has its own page where you can see the schedule laid out with what the projections are, the win probabilities, all that good stuff. So a lot of information, and I think it's really cheap. Only $50 for the whole season. So pretty good deal there. And then you can listen to me on the Bill and Doug show this season. We'll be doing one national show where we'll do kind of national betting stuff for the whole slate. And then on Fridays, we'll do an Ohio State specific betting show again, because I know the people really, really have loved that in the past.
Absolutely. That has been, those used to be, I don't know if they're still going to be, those used to be Friday mornings. And I'd be taking
Yep.
my daughter to school. And after I drop her off, I put that on and I'm like, pulling in Dunkin' Donuts, about to get some coffee. And I'm like making notes of the bets I'm going to make for Friday heading into Saturday. You
Yeah,
guys did a great job and I appreciate that.
thank you. Yeah, I think that's the plan as well this year. We'll do the Buckeye betting on Fridays again.
Okay. All right. Good stuff. Well, Tyler, I again appreciate you waking up early, doing this for us. And, again, if you guys can get subscribed to his service, he does a hell of a job. And again, we appreciate you